Do not get me wrong, I am enjoying this book. I am honestly flying through it, but this is 70 pages. That's how much I've read. That is 70 pages. I feel like it is one of the OG book talk books, and the fact that I have not read it yet is astounding. They keep mentioning his tail, like, no, I'm trying to forget that. Welcome back to my channel. So if you are new here, you should know that I am a huge mood reader. Because of this, I usually don't set a monthly TBR because I simply just won't follow it. However, I am trying to dwindle down my physical TBR, and the only way that I could do this effectively is by setting these monthly TBRs for myself. This month I actually had you guys choose my monthly TBR, and I did this whole video on it, so if you haven't seen it, go check it out. I'll have it linked. So since then, I have actually cut down my monthly TBR by 50%. I have these 3 books left. So this video is just going to be like a fun little reading vlog of me trying to finish my physical TBR. We are starting off this video by reading Binding 13 by Khloe Walsh. This is the first book of the Boys of Tommen series by her. It's about Johnny and Shannon. Johnny is quite popular. He's on the rugby team. He's an athlete. Whereas Shannon is quite shy. She's not very popular and she doesn't have the greatest home life. This book is really just about their journey and their relationship, and I can't wait to read it. I've heard such great things about this series, and Destiny Sidwell just raves about this series and the characters, so I can't wait to dive right in. So this book takes place in Ireland, and obviously it uses a lot of Irish slang. However, I don't know what any of it means because I'm American. So while I'm reading it, I'm like, oh, they're being so rude to her. How dare they call her that name? And then I'll go to the glossary where it has all the definitions for the slang, and it'll be like, oh, it means she's a beautiful girl. They're actually complimenting her. And I'll be like, oh, okay, that's fine, I guess. Do not get me wrong. I am enjoying this book. I'm honestly flying through it, but this is 70 pages. That's how much I've read. That is 70 pages. Gibbsy, Johnny's best friend, cracks me up. Oh my gosh. He's probably my favorite side character right now. I'm not gonna lie. Some of the stuff he says is so out of pocket and I love it. It is update time. I'm about 130 pages into Binding 13. Now, on the outside looking in, this book isn't that thick, okay? It doesn't look that thick. It looks like 400, 500 pages at the most, okay? That is incredibly wrong. This book is actually 600 pages because the pages in this book are like Bible thin, like transparent almost. So imagine my shock when I found that out when I started reading this. With that being said, I am actually really enjoying the book. I feel like I'm flying through it. It is kind of paced on the slower side, I will say that. I feel like the 2 main characters have barely interacted with one another, but I'm hoping that changes soon. I am enjoying Johnny and Shannon separately though, because that's kind of how we're getting them. Like, I'm getting both of their POVs and I do really enjoy them. I definitely enjoy a lot of the side characters. I really like Gibbsy. I like Claire. Yeah. I absolutely love Gibbsy's and Johnny's friendship. They are just so cute. It's happening. They're in the same car together. They're talking. This is the most Johnny and Shannon time we have gotten so far. Good morning, everyone. So it is the next day. I am 300 pages into Binding 13. The more I read this book, the more I just fall in love with the characters. I absolutely love Gibbsy and Johnny's friendship. Their interactions are probably one of my favorite things about this book. I'm not gonna lie. We're also getting a lot more interactions between Johnny and Shannon. They're hanging out more. They just have this undeniable bond. Like, they understand each other on a deep level despite all their differences. We're also getting a lot more of Shannon's brother Joey, and I just love him, and I love his girlfriend Reeve so much. This book definitely handles a lot of heavy topics, so if you're thinking about reading it, definitely check out trigger warnings just to make sure. I'm about 50% through. There's 600 pages in this book total, so I'm really hoping to finish it today, and maybe we'll also start a new book. Who knows? I just love that both Johnny and Shannon call each other out on their BS. Like, they both know when the other one is lying. I literally can't stop laughing because of the conversation between Johnny and his mom. Basically, Shannon is at Johnny's house and his mom is like freaking out because this is the first time he's brought a girl home. And so she's like sitting him down and like having the talk with him, and he's just like dying inside, and I love it. Why does no one talk about how funny these books are? So it is the next day. Last night I ended up finishing Binding 13. I chose not to update you guys until now just because I really needed to sit with this book and let it sink in. I think I ended up with the conclusion that this book is a 4 out of 5 for me. Gibbsy is by far my favorite side character. Every time he made an appearance, I was laughing out loud. However, the romance definitely felt very, very slow paced, which is kind of a given because there is a second book. However, because of this, it felt like the romance really took a back seat at times. But I will say, every time we did get like a crumb or an inkling of the romance, it just hit so hard, like I ate it up. Every time. So moving on, the next book we're gonna read is The Cruel Prince. I feel like this book needs no introduction just because of how popular it is, but if you did not know, The Cruel Prince is the first book in a trilogy. It is about Jude and Cardan. It is enemies to lovers, it is a YA fantasy, and I cannot wait to jump in just because this book is so popular. I feel like it is one of the OG book talk books, and the fact that I have not read it yet is astounding. Why does the main male character have a tail? Like, why did that need to be a thing? Don't mind the costume change, guys, but it is update time. It honestly feels like I haven't talked to you guys in a hot minute. So just to recap what happened yesterday, I'm not gonna lie, I did not read a single page of The Cruel Prince. I didn't even look in the direction of that book. I just wasn't in the mood to read, and I'm not gonna force myself to because that's how you get into slumps. Like we're not dealing with slumps over here, okay? However, going into today, I knew I wanted to read The Cruel Prince. I wanted to at least start it, but I've been feeling so tired that I just knew I didn't have the brain power or the brain capacity to read words on a page. Like, that is just too much. So I've actually been listening to The Cruel Prince on audio, which has been a lifesaver. I honestly feel like listening to this book on audio has let me connect to the characters more. Like, it feels like Jude is like talking to me personally. I'm gonna be totally honest, I have almost cried like at least 5 times because of what Jude and her twin sister are going through. Like, it literally breaks my heart. I don't know how they're gonna redeem Cardan because I honestly hate his guts. I'm not gonna lie. So I'm on chapter 9. I don't know how many pages that is, but there are like 20 chapters. So I feel like I'm making good progress. I've been listening to it on 2 times speed, so I'm breezing through it. It is the next day. I am so sorry that I'm horrible at vlogging during the school week. Last night, I literally went to bed at 8:30. The weeks that I have spent going to bed at midnight and then waking up the next day at 6:30 have finally caught up to me. With that being said, though, I do have amazing news, and that is that I am 50% through The Cruel Prince. I have been listening to this book only on audio, and it has been amazing. I haven't ever really listened to a fantasy book on audio, and I was worried it would be hard to pick up clues and details that fantasy books kind of require of the reader, especially when it comes to the world building. But since this book is YA, it is kind of easier to grasp, and I've just been loving it. Like, fantasies just take more brain power, but since I'm not reading the words, I feel like I'm just cruising. I'm on a little vacation for my mind. It's so nice. I may try to read the physical book for a little bit, but other than that, the audiobook has just been my godsend. update time. I just want to do a quick update before I go to bed because I am so tired. I'm on chapter 20 of The Cruel Prince, and I've just been listening to this book on audio. It has been a godsend being able to just like turn on the audiobook and go about my day. I honestly think if I did not have the audiobook right now, I would not have made any progress reading the book because that's how chaotic my week has kind of been. Other than that, I have really been enjoying the book. I love Jude. Don't know how I feel about Carden. I'm waiting for him to kind of redeem himself. I'm waiting for like an inkling or crumb of romance. But when I say this book has a subplot of romance, it's a subplot. Like, it is non-existent, and I'm like more than halfway through the book. And that's fine, Like, I really like what's going on. I like the characters, I like the world building. But if you are a romance girly and that's like all you like out of fantasy, I don't think this series is going to be for you. So with that being said, I am going to go to bed. I'm hoping that tomorrow we're able to finish The Cruel Prince. I would love to finish it and then start Part of Your World, but that might be wishful thinking, but we'll see. We shall see. It is the next day. I am going to keep this introduction very, very short. Basically, we're finishing The Cruel Prince today, okay? That is the only thing on our agenda. I'm currently on chapter 23. I feel like the story is finally picking up. Like, we got to the coronation and stuff went crazy, okay? That's all I can say. That's all I can divulge. But yeah. My girl Jude is really going through it, and I feel so bad for her. They keep mentioning his tail. Like, no, I'm trying to forget that. He's like, do you want to see my tail? Like, no, we don't. We don't. Guys, it's happening. The romance subplot is finally kicking in, and I'm loving it. I am eating it up. Eating it up. After days of inconsistent updates, inconsistent reading, I have finally finished reading The Cruel Prince. Thank you. Thank you. Couldn't have done it without you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I think for me, I'm going to rate this book at a 3.25. I did really enjoy it, and I definitely plan on continuing the trilogy and maybe even reading the spin-off series. However, looking back, it honestly feels like not a lot happened up until the final few chapters. I really did enjoy the book. I enjoyed Jude and her character. However, entertainment factor, it honestly felt like not a lot happened. Like, it really just pops off at the very end. I also think this book is marketed wrong. Everyone talks about the romance and the enemies to lovers. This book has a minimal to no romance subplot. Like, there is some, like, we do get crumbs, but like, that's basically it. The first book mainly just focuses on background, politics, character building, things like that. So it's safe to say if you need a heavy romance subplot in your fantasy reads, this might not be the trilogy for you, unfortunately. Thankfully, I am at the point of my fantasy reading journey where I can read a fantasy book without having a lot of romance in it. But I know a lot of people, that's what they read fantasy for, so just putting it out there. I also think listening to this book on audio enhanced my reading experience by a lot. Because this book focuses a lot on the world building, the politics, it can be a little daunting to read sometimes, or maybe a little boring. Because I didn't have to use a lot of brain power to like actually read the words on a page, I was just listening to it. I would think I was able to enjoy it a little bit more than I would have if I was actually physically reading the book. So I will say that. Definitely maybe use the audiobook to your advantage because I know I did. I listened to that thing on 2x speed and it was great. So it is the next day. This morning I woke up and I just immediately started Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I've been going back and forth between listening to the audiobook and reading the physical copy, and I'm already 48% through, which is just wild. I'm honestly flying through it. I just love it so much. So basically, Part of Your World is a contemporary romance. It's about Alexis and Daniel, and they come from very two different worlds. Alexis has a very affluent, prestigious background. She comes from a line of doctors and they're just very rich and uppity, okay? Whereas Daniel comes from a very small town, like literally everyone who lives there knows each other. It is a small circle. And he is a blue-collar man. He's a carpenter. He owns an inn. But they meet on the off chance that Alexis's car breaks down. And Daniel is actually the one that helps tow her car out of like the ditch that it got in. They meet again later that night and they just hit it off. They have a one-night stand and they just can't stay away from each other, essentially. This book is one night stand, small town, big city vibes, that kind of deal. And then it is also reverse age gap. This book has the best banter I have heard in a while. I feel like banter in any romance book is this like fine line between cute and cringy, and this one definitely toes on the cute side. I just love Daniel so much. He is not afraid of commitment. Like, he wants to be her boyfriend, and she's actually the one that's like, no, I'm just not ready for a boyfriend, like trying to be that non-committal person. But he's like, no, like, I want to be your boyfriend. And I love it. I love it. We love a guy that isn't afraid of commitment. I just know the third act breakup is so close. It is right around the corner. It's like waiting for a bomb to go off. I have such a love-hate relationship with Spotify. I'm now in Spotify jail. I've run out of my audiobook hours. So now we have to go read the physical book. Back to reading the physical copy like a peasant because I'm in Spotify jail. I'm literally on the verge of tears because Daniel is breaking my heart. We need to protect this man with all costs. I just know he's gonna get his heart broken and I can't stand it. I finished Part of Your World. I loved this book. I ate it up. I finished it in one day. Like, love her. I absolutely fell in love with Daniel. It is so refreshing to have a main male character that is like all in. Like, he knows what he wants. He's not afraid of that commitment, especially when it's so prevalent in like the romance book community that it's the guy that is like fearful of commitment, doesn't want to put labels onto things like that. And I feel like the traditional gender roles in that position were kind of switched in this book. This book was also a reverse age gap, which goes against the norm, I think. And usually I don't like that trope just because the books that I have read with that trope just didn't do it well. This book did an amazing job of it. I am always wary of age gap tropes, no matter which gender is older. I'm always wary of it. It has to be kind of well done for me to enjoy the couple and to root for them. This book did a great job. It didn't bother me that they were almost 10 years apart. They really didn't talk about it much, and it wasn't like a big contributing factor in their relationship, which I'm really glad for. The other thing I wanted to note was the third act breakup. Normally, I'm a third act breakup hater, but I think this one was really well done. I feel like the third act breakup was very believable. It was over an issue that couldn't be resolved immediately. It had a lot of weight to it, and I appreciate Abby Jimenez putting substance in that plot device. And oftentimes it is over something very trivial and you just can't get behind that. You know, you're like, okay, this is just annoying. This is just a nuisance. Whereas I felt like this third act breakup really aided to the character's development because of everything that was going on. This book also made me cry. I did shed tears over this book. So, with that being said, I honestly don't know what I want to rate this book. It's between a 4.5 and a 5 star. I just loved it. And I'm so glad that I have more of Abby Jimenez books because I think she has the possibility of becoming one of my favorite authors. I think I'm going to end the video here. We were successful. We finished my February TBR, which is just so amazing. If you want to know my final rating of Part of Your World, definitely make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on my monthly wrap up. That's where I will probably have a definite and locked in rating. If you enjoyed this reading vlog, make sure to give it a big thumbs up. Comment down below if you've read any of these books, what you thought about them. If you hadn't read them, are they on your TBR? Do you want to read them now? Like, I would love to chat with you guys down in the comments. I also have a bookstagram. It's called currently.overbooked. I post daily. I post reels, reviews, everything that is book related, I post on there as well. So go follow me. And yeah, that is it. I will see you next time. Goodbye.